All right, we are live. My name is Nate Glasper Jr., and I want to welcome you to another worship conversation. And as people are coming in, I just want to say thank you for tuning in. This is, I've lost track of weeks, but we've had wonderful conversations centered around worship leadership from musicians living out worship. We talked about multicultural worship. We've talked about just worship in general. What is worship? Who are we as worshipers? So I just want to talk today with some good friends of mine I've known for quite some time. We have Tyrone Foster and Dennett Threlkeld-Cohn, and they're both newlyweds. Hallelujah!
That is
I've known
good.
for a long time, and we've done ministry together. And I'll give them a chance to introduce themselves. But I just first want to say thank you both for coming and being a part of this tonight and just helping us to just have this conversation. Dannette and I were talking a little bit earlier, saying this platform and other platforms around there are really helping to address questions that people have always asked but never really had a chance to talk about. And I know this conversation, praise teams and choirs, and I put in a tagline, praise teams versus choirs, because that's kind of giving that controversial text a little bit, But we know it's not a competition, but I do want to just have this gentle conversation. It's not about, what's the word I'm looking at? We're not looking to have a war. We're not looking to have controversial. It's another word I'm looking for. Oh, it's not a competition. Yeah, I want to talk about that too. And just we're also going to share from our experience. So, with that being said, Dannette, go ahead and introduce yourself and where you're from, where you're serving in church right now, and then we'll let Tyrone go, and then I'll just ask him more questions and things as well.
Okay, well, hello, everybody. My name is Dennett Threlkeld-Cohn. I am a servant of the Lord. No, I I serve as a minister of music at Lansing Church of God in Christ, as well as the state minister of music for Southwest Michigan #3, under the leadership and direction of Bishop Samuel Duncan Jr. So, hi, guys.
Hey.
Hello, everyone. I am Tyrone Foster. I currently live in Detroit, from Philadelphia, and I currently serve at Redeeming Love Church under the pastorship of James Johnson.
Yes, sir.
And I'm glad to be here.
All right. Now let's jump right in, and I'll prepare some questions for you all, and then those who are tuning in, feel free to make some comments, and also there'll be a portion where you guys can ask questions as well. What do you love most about choir singing and worship leading? And I one of the reasons why I asked you both to come on is because, again, we've served together in multiple capacities over the years. And I know for a fact that I can confidently say that I've seen strengths in both of you as worship leaders, as far as leading the song, but also as worship leading a team of worshipers, as well as both of your strengths in leading choirs. And I've been under both of your leadership in some type of capacity, whether Tyrone was directing and I was in the choir singing, or same with Dannette, under your leadership, we both served under Dannette as board members under Southwest 3. And so I know you both are capable, but at the same time, I believe you can speak to both ends of the spectrum, choirs and praise teams. So what do you love most about choirs, and what do you love most about praise teams? Let's start with Tyrone, since you left us off. Let's start with him.
Okay, so what I love most about choirs, with choirs, I think I love the sound, the mass sound. It's something to be revered, in my opinion. When you can get 30 plus, up to however many voices singing their parts together, and just the mass sound that it creates, especially when they're in tune.
Yeah.
Mainly when they're in tune. I think that spiritually, it pierces an atmosphere. What I love about praise teams, I love that there's more room to be spontaneous. With praise teams, for me, I try to throw that spontaneity in every, whether it's choir or praise and worship team. But with praise and worship team, it's easier to spontaneously move with 6 people as opposed to 30.
That's good. That's good. That's so true as well. Go ahead, Dennett. What do you love most about the praise team, the choir?
Okay, well, as far as the choir, the fellowship of bringing in the harmonies of the voices, of course, like Ty said, when they're in tune, but bringing in the harmony, which really creates a sound that reaches from goes from the earth to heaven, and it's a lot, bringing back another sound that releases the ministry and ministering, of the songs that we sing that changes lives. And the choir as a mass, we do that. Praise team, do that as well, but it's different when you have a choir together that comes together that really loves to sing. And that's one thing that I've been thankful for, that I've worked with different choirs that overall, from my local church, Jurisdiction International, and other choirs that I've been a part of, community choirs, that we come together and we love to sing. Having a love for what you do really allows you to produce a even greater sound, because the passion is there. You really understand, and grasp what you're singing, and you're able to minister to God, and then he ministers back to you to minister to his people. So that's one thing that I really take from the choir standpoint. Now, from praise team, I can agree that it gives you room to move around, first of all, because it's not as many people. And for me personally, I can say that I would take off running, or spin, or fall out on the floor in the middle of worship. So for praise team, it really does give you an outlet. It's different. It's a different way of reaching the congregation that you are ministering to, and it's just it's more personal, because you have more space, and you can create. So it's just amazing how God creates atmospheres, and it's a difference, but the main thing is creating an atmosphere that will give God praise. So yeah.
I agree with both of those. I also think of choirs is a great opportunity to, and I want to use this term loosely, not like give everyone a chance, but you give a larger body an opportunity to release a corporate sound. I think a worship team as an opportunity to teach your congregation, as far as you got the 7 levels of praise, you got the Barak, the Halal, Tehillah, Kara, all those things, so many ways to praise the Lord, so many ways to worship the Lord. I remember growing up in church, and we had a big choir. I was part of a church, and it was a huge choir, but every time the choir sang, the audience was just kind of standing there, and we were just, clapping and enjoying. But as I grew older, was introduced to worship teams, I felt like I got to know God a little more as an audience member, learning how to worship. Also, this is actually why I'm clapping my hands, and or the sound of corporate worship, or what happens when the congregation is singing together. What happens when that spontaneous moment happens, and we as a congregation can release an offering to the Lord. So many things. It's almost like that worship team takes you to another level. Now, some people will feel like, well, the worship team is a clique. The worship team is what makes a worship team so special? Or am I not good enough to be on a worship team?
It's a smaller group. That's what makes it.
definitely is. And I think of stuff like, some churches are smaller in number as far as congregation. Right. And if you have a church with 30 members and you want to have a choir, what makes a choir number wise? Because if you got 30 in your congregation and you want to get 15 in the choir, who's going to be in the congregation? So many factors that go into when, how, and when to do this whole praise thing, choir thing. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well, and also about the clique conversation. We'll talk about that. But I want you to share a little bit, where did it all begin for you? Where did it start for you? What was your big break or your big opportunity, whether it's to lead a song, direct the choir, lead worship? What was your big, when did it all begin for you? And then talk about what has your experience been like even up to today? So where did it all begin? And then kind of share what your journey or your experience has been like even up to today. Let's start with you, Dennett.
All right. Well, I actually started singing at the age of 4. I did my first solo with my brother Jerome, and he ended up taking over the song, but I was still there in the beginning. I love my brother, but anyway, we sung my first solo at the age of 4 with the youth choir. Then I started directing the choir at the age of 14. And I joined actually in my elementary years, I was a part of a community choir called the Chapter 1 choir under the leadership of Diane Hardy. And she allowed me to have my first solos with them. And that's where I met Sidney Oliver, which I later in years joined in ministry with him. I'll get to that in just a second. Then I joined another community choir when I was actually the age of 13. And I was actually too young to sing in that choir because they were a high school choir, but I took a picture on their album cover. So she had no other choice but to let me sing in the choir. So that was with recording artist Odelia Dunlap in the Northwest Community Gospel Choir here in Flint, Michigan. Then I moved on to college, and my brother had a community choir called Levitical Voices. And that was during my Central Michigan, Saginaw Valley University years. And then I joined Victorious Believers Ministry in 2001 under the leadership of Sidney Oliver, who also served as the Minister of Music for Southwest Number 3. And then he allowed me the chance to sing, direct the choir. I began teaching the choir. I was on the executive board. And then when he left and got married and moved on in ministry, Kenrick Mayfield, the late Kenrick Mayfield, I want to give honor to him because I learned so much from Sidney and Kenrick Mayfield as far as leading worship, as far as leading the choir in song teaching. I learned so much from them too. So I definitely want to give homage to them. And we recently just lost Kenrick Mayfield, and he was a great person overall, but he truly served the Lord, and just watching his lifestyle of living and the words that he spoke and that he taught us, I was able to glean from that. And when he moved on in ministry, I took over the leadership of the jurisdictional choir back in 2011. And I've been standing in office since then. So it's been some time now that I have had the opportunity, and I don't take it lightly at all, to serve in the capacity of leading worship and leading God's people in song. It's really, I don't want to start getting misty, I'll get misty in a minute, but it's truly an honor and serving under you. I mean, working with both of you all, like I've learned so much from both of you all, like really, like with Tyrone, the whole harmony thing, our ears are just all three of us, our ears are very, very different, but similar at the same time, and how we are able to come together whenever we are. And it's just creating a sound that's just amazing. So that's been my experience with singing. I know I had a long story, but that's just my experience. My whole life have been singing. So yeah, I'm gonna stop crying before I start getting a little misty.
Thanks for sharing that. We'll elaborate some more on that as well. Go ahead, Ty.
For me, my music journey, I wasn't really coherent when my music ministry started. I was actually in my mom's arms, and there was a pastor who came to our church, and he had asked, like, is there anybody in here named Tyrone? And then my mom was like, yeah, my son. And then he went on to, prophesy about my life, and some of the things that I'll be involved in. And music was one of those things that he prophesied about. And from that, as far back as I remember, I've kind of been singing, and I was in the children's choir in my church, and also we didn't really have a adult choir. It was just kind of like, I guess you can call it mass, because everybody just sang. But then there was a point, like when I was like 12 or 13, when there's a point where I was 12 or 13 when the pastor had shut down the choir for, various reasons. And in that space, I was asked to basically what we call now lead worship. But for that church, I was playing keys and singing. I was the only singer there for years. I didn't know, oh, I'm leading worship. I'm the worship leader here. Just because that, even then, that wasn't necessarily the terminology that we used. But absolutely, that's what it was. And then I came to Michigan for Michigan State, and I joined the gospel choir on campus. And my first year, I was just a lay member. Second year, I was assistant director. And then the third year, I took over the choir, and I think I was director for 3 years, I think. I was the director for the choir. And really after that, I've done a number of things, from singing background and arranging music and recording. Oh, I recorded a CD too.
Yes, come on.
I recorded a CD in 2016, and currently I'm at Redeeming Love Church, where I lead worship there. So that's as small, as short as I can put it. That's kind of my music journey.
What are some of the challenges you may have faced over your journey, both of you? We'll stay at Tyrone. What has been some challenges as far as how did you balance leading choir and leading worship team, and many times in the same service? Has there been challenges, or even in prep for those services, over the years, over the journey, the rehearsals, the conversations, the molding, the teaching? I just thought of something you said. You were the only singer in the church. Eventually, some other singers, I'm sure your mind was like, we got to get some more singers in here. What was that journey like? Was there any challenges? You had to teach some people and explain all these things. So talk about that balance between choir leading and worship leading, or worship team leading.
Okay, so that's I really can't speak about that space when I was a teenager, just because it was literally me from 13 all the way till I graduated.
Okay.
So
okay.
So I can't really speak to that space, but I can speak about. I'll talk about me directing the gospel choir versus me leading worship at El Kojit when I was there. It's very different, right? So with choir, some of the biggest challenges that I've faced with choir is really motivating people to produce what you envision in your head. And essentially you're motivating volunteers, because we're in a choir, nobody's getting paid, but you want them to have the same passion about the music that you do, and you have a vision in your head, and the challenge is how to communicate your vision in a way that they understand and also want to buy into the vision. Because oftentimes, you have a vision and an idea for the direction that you want to go into, but if your members don't care about the things that you care about, then it's hard to get them to be motivated to produce the same thing that you want. With Praise Team, I'd say the biggest challenge, I'll speak specifically to my experience. The biggest challenge with Praise Team at El Kojic was that, especially when I first got there, the Praise Team was just super talented. Like everybody just could lead and wreck on a Sunday, any given Sunday. And so the challenge was sort of the same, but understanding how to contribute to each and every member being fed and making sure that they are meeting their potential, while still getting them to buy into the vision.
Or because they're so super talented, you like, listen to me. Yeah.
Right. It definitely puts the pressure on, like, okay, my Sunday's coming up, so
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. Go ahead, Dennett.
I guess I could speak to the same thing with my experiences with choirs. Well, one thing is, it's not always easy. Some stuff is easy because you have people who want to be there and they want to sing, but I know I can speak for my challenges is the song selection. Yeah. Why are we singing this song?
Yeah.
First, did you listen to the words of the song? For me, like, God will give me a song for us to minister, and then why are we singing this song? Did you listen to the message in the song? It doesn't sound like something that we've sung before. God gives a different sound sometimes, and each leader, I can say, because me and Ty, we served in the same music leadership position, that his leadership skills are totally different than mine. His musical choices are totally different than mine. Do we both love the Lord? Yes. He teaches songs differently than I teach. I like to have fun when I'm teaching. Tyrone is all about the extra harmonies that we sung in 5-part harmonies under his leadership. With me, I'm gonna give you 3.5. If we need it, because we may have a bass, in a certain song. He may need a lower note, or she may need a lower note. I don't know, but I can just say like that the transition and that's what makes this Zoom tonight or conversation tonight different, because you have two people who served in the same leadership position and experienced two different things. So Nate, this takes this to a whole different level. I don't know if you was ready. No, but that just shows the different leadership abilities that two individuals have, that the main purpose is uplifting the name of Jesus. The song choices may be a little bit different, but did it reach the people? We don't know. Each song is different. Different songs works for different people. Yeah. And my whole thing is, well, if God said for us to sing it, maybe they're not going to run around that Sunday. But the next time we sing it, it could blow the church up. I mean, not blow it up, you know, but I'm saying on the spiritual level. But nobody don't go blow up the church. But no, just the different techniques and styles. It causes you to think about things differently when you have a transitional time of leadership. And I can say that it's all some things that I kind of wrote down is that the leadership skills are totally different, but we're all seeking to serve the same purpose, and that's praising God through the midst of all of that. So some of the other challenges is dealing with the different personalities. You have, depending on the choir you have, or depending on the size of your church, you may have just a praise team. So you have like 7 personalities that you have to deal with. Okay.
Absolutely.
The next thing is you have a choir. You may have 25 to 35 choir members. That's a lot of personalities. And some of those personalities have other personalities. If you want to be real, because we don't talk about mental illness in the church. But anyway, that's a different situation for next week. So bring it back. No, I'm joking. Don't bring me back. But but you have so many different personalities that you're working with. Then you have the personalities of the musicians that you're working with. So sometimes it's not always easy working with some musicians, and that's just been my experience from my whole life. You know, you mesh well with some people, and some people you just have to respect everybody's position. You know, you respect the talented, gifted musicians you have, respect the voices that you are working with, that like Ty said, they're none, you know, you're not getting paid to sing. Like, this is just your service and render of service back to God. So you have to respect that they're there to sing. So I'm gonna stop talking right there.
Well, that's good. And also I want to and I'm seeing some of the comments that people are writing. You have to also, I want to talk about trusting your leader. So I'll put a pin right there. Tierra Willis says the praise team has a different charge of responsibility, and everyone sees you and they hear you. I want to talk a little bit about that. And then Tiana says, if the songs make sense and it's in season to minister, you will get motivation from your choir members. All songs don't go with all church houses. Both of those are true statements, but also to the choir member or the worship team member, you have to trust the leadership. You have to trust the person who God has put in that place to lead. Because someone came to me once, and this was some years back, about a song. It was one of the top 10 on the radio, and it just didn't fit our house. And I was just kind of like, you know what? And I'm trying to remember what the song was, but it was just like, oh my God. And not only fitting our house spiritually, but it didn't fit our house naturally, vocally, musically. It didn't fit our house because the team I was building wasn't capable of hitting that sound. And so, and so leaders, members, you got to understand that that's probably something that your leader is dealing with, and they don't want to hurt your feelings, you know, because when you're leading a group, you're leading worship team choir. I look at it as, I'm sure you all too, I'm helping to build you up. I'm helping to build I'm teaching you music. I'm teaching you harmonies and things. So the song you heard on the radio, we probably won't get to sing it now, you know, but maybe sometime in the future we will. I mean, I've been called names and accused of he don't like me and he don't respond to my text messages. I mean, it's like come on, y'all. It's so much bigger than that. And then also I want to talk a little bit about what is a choir song, what is a praise team song. That's something that comes up often, and not just at my church, but other areas that I lead. You know, somebody say, what about this song? I'm like, you know, that really is not a choir sounding song, or well, why not? You know, but just thinking about that. What makes a choir song, and what makes a praise team song, a praise team song?
Can I go?
Go ahead.
Okay, so for me, there's definitely a noticeable difference between what you would hear a choir do and what you would hear a praise team do. But I feel like a lot of that has to do with culturally how we framed the separate entities, because I, like, as I've very much so in my earlier years was like, okay, yeah, choir is definitely different than a praise team. But as I've gotten older, I've tried to realize what those major differences were. And it really came down to preference, right? Because at the end of the day, whether it's the choir or whether it's the praise team, you want somebody singing who has the right posture, and their heart is in the right posture. Whether it's the choir or it's the praise team, you want people who are going to worship in spirit and in truth. Whether it's the choir or the praise team, you want to touch heaven.
Yeah.
So, it really comes down to preference to me and convenience. Because for me, it's more convenient to function with 6 singers who are very confident in their musical ability versus 30 where 6 are confident, and you got 12 maybes, and then the other 8
like to stand on the front row.
Yeah. So but in terms of songs, I mean, just culturally, and I'll speak like directly from my experience with the Black church. Our choir songs are y'all let y'all going. Our choir songs are very distinct. Like there is a sound that you look for with choirs. Like especially now, you don't necessarily hear a lot of choirs singing straight tone. Like, you hear a lot of when you're hearing a choir song, you're gonna hear an exaggerated vibrato, right? But then when you're even on our slower songs too, maybe not the whole song, but at some point you're gonna hear that exaggerated
somewhere.
You're gonna hear that exaggerated vibrato, right? But then you have praise and worship songs, which are there are some elaborate praise and worship songs, but really the major difference between the two, a lot of your praise and worship songs are super you want them to be super simplistic, because you want it to make it easy for people to soak in worship. So that happens when you're repeating yourself a lot. When you're saying simple phrases that kind of resonate with the room, when you're saying simple phrases that pierce the atmosphere, the tones are not as hard, that we don't require the harsh tones when we're singing praise and worship. But that's really just how we've framed what we expect from a praise and worship team versus what we expect from a choir. But I've experienced, especially with MSU gospel choir, I've experienced singing songs that are usually designated for a praise team with the choir, and it had the same effect, or if not greater, and I'm not saying one is better than the other, but what the point that I'm making is the difference really is how we've framed
it. That's good. The song, I was gonna say Youthful Praise, New Direction, Lord, you're worthy, and we give you the praise. It's an old song. Yeah. Now, that song is all of maybe 4 or 5 words. When I started leading the Calvin Gospel Choir, I taught that 70 voice choir that song because I was teaching them gospel. I was teaching them the hand claps, the 2-4. I was teaching them harmonies, and I was teaching them
2-4
modulation.
has taken me out.
2-4. I'm saying. Not the 1 and 3, but 2 and 4. Okay.
4. I was teaching them modulation. So I took that on as a way to serve a congregation. I looked at them as a congregation I was serving.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at it as I was leading them, teaching them how to lead corporate worship. And so I took a simple song like that, and it taught them, and it brought such a big sound. And we started off the concert with that. And I said, okay, now we can go into some choral types, SATV stuff. But that was one simple praise and worship type song that was used. I framed it in that moment, for a choir to sing. And sometimes you can frame songs like that, even if you explain it to yourself. There's been times I had our choir at our church. A lot of people don't know we have a choir at our church with 20-something members. But sometimes I said, hey, this Sunday, the worship team's not going to open. Our choir is going to open, and we'll open with a worship type song, praise and worship type song. Mm-hmm. And then after offering, we'll do a keeps on making a way, a choir song. So yeah. Dennett, did you want to talk about that a little bit as well? Choir songs?
Well, yeah, I was just going to say also it's a difference in choir songs versus like concert songs, like songs you would sing at, I agree with everything Ty said, but just adding in like the concert songs, like some songs you would sing for a concert, or if you're going to a musical in Detroit, like, oh, we're gonna sing that one, that's the concert song. We're gonna sing that one. Then it's different ways, genres within the gospel music in general. You have your anthems. You have, anthems are good for a musical, or if for us in the Kojic world for official day, for official day. And anthems, your hymns, there's different types and different styles within that the choir sing, that will sing on a Sunday morning versus at a concert. And then the praise team, those songs, are more like repetitious songs that the congregation can join in. I know everybody get tired of it, but every praise, we love you, every praise, but that's a song where everybody, everybody know it, and just because it's on the radio, some stuff do work and then some stuff don't work. But yeah, just adding in.
I think we've probably sang every praise once. In this instance, I think we've sang it one time, and I was like, that's enough. But speaking of that, the praising and things, I want to ask the question, and maybe those who are watching, you can chime in as well. Has the praise team replaced the choir? Like I said earlier in the introduction, I've known you both for a long time, and I've seen your passion for choirs up here, and I've seen your passions for worship team up here. I've always been a choir head. My mother sang in the choir. She always brought me and my 4 other siblings to choir rehearsal with her. So that's all we saw. That's all we knew. Throughout the house, she will always play Maddie Moss. She always played I Can Do All Things Through Christ. She always played James Moore, Mississippi Mass. She always played Keith Pringle, and all of these Milton Bronson, Thompson Community Singers. All of these people she's always played. And I'm talking about vinyl. I was born in '83, so some vinyls were still kind of like fading out and CDs were coming in. But I remember, all I remember is choir music. And when I started playing in church at age 8, I was playing choir music. And so to this day, I find myself still listening to choir music. I got a playlist on my Apple Music that says old school choir music. And so, and I'm talking about older than the Hezekiah Walker, John Peake. I'm talking about some of that older choir music as well, in addition to that. So I will always love choir music. I teach choir in high school. I teach choir at the university. But also at my core, I know I'm called to lead worship. So I don't know how to bark. I can whistle a little, but the full bark, I'll be practicing sometimes. I practice sometimes in the car on the way to Lance and coaching, but I enjoy it to the fullest, you know, and at the same time, I enjoy leading worship as well. So I know my place, I know my area, but at the same time, I know, you know, I can be versatile. So has a choirs replaced praise teams replaced the choir? So many people think that. People think the praise team is a clique. Let's talk about that. Anybody can go first.
Okay, I'll go. I think that it's impossible for the choir, for the praise team to replace the choir and vice versa, because I believe that they offer different things. You know, as they are now, they offer different experiences, and if I want to experience, let's say if I want to experience a waterfall, I'm not gonna go to the Grand Canyon, right? Because there's no waterfall there that I know of. I'm no geographer.
Yeah.
But if I want to experience the Grand Canyon, I'm not gonna go to Niagara Falls. It's two different entities, and they produce two different things. And I think that people need to, when they're discussing praise teams versus choirs, people just need to understand that everybody has a different musical palette. You know, we have things that we like and things that we prefer, and we have things that we don't. If choir music is not what you prefer, then that's okay. But to say that one thing replaces the other is kind of ludicrous, especially with there being so many choirs out here, and not even just the not even talking about mainstream, but there are literally so many. I can think of so many choirs just in the city of Detroit, but there are literally so many choirs that are alive and functioning at their level. And to me, they don't show sign of going anywhere. You know, it's just one of those things. Like, as you grow and as you experience new things, we've grown as a whole in church, and the praise and worship experience is fairly new to us in comparison to the choir experience. So we experience something new, but just because you experience something new, that doesn't mean that you automatically have to get rid of what was already there. Because essentially, the way I see it is that both are extensions of each other. And whether you go back and acknowledge the history, praise and worship teams are standing on the shoulders of choirs. So it's important to really not pick.
Harmony.
You said what?
Oh, sorry. I said they wouldn't even know how to do the harmony if it wasn't for the choir.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, the way, and again, this is not necessarily how I, my thought process concerning praise and worship, because again, as I've gotten older, it's hard to see the difference between the two outside of what we've created. But if you think about it, in from an aspect of a military, like, your praise and worship team are your more in the way that I would do it, my praise and worship team would be more of my specialized singers, or my tactical team for a special job per se, and my choir would be a part of the musical army of sorts, but still fighting a battle, sticking with this analogy, but just doing different things.
It's good.
It's not a rivalry.
I love those analogies. That's really, really, really good. Go ahead, Sister Dennett. Sister, you got formal.
Oh my gosh, I am Dennett. But I the last part that Ty said, that it's not a rivalry. But the other thing goes to, it depends on how many people you have in your music department at your church, because we have a lot of churches now that are more smaller. They have a smaller congregation, and the congregation is the choir, is the praise team. It really depends on what the pastor may call them. We're going to have a selection, so that's the whoever you sing, it's time to come forth. So that could be 10 people, that could be 5 people, it's whatever we're going to have a selection, and then that choir, not to say the whosoever will, but those that know they're willing to sing, they come forth and sing. So I think that's one of the main things too, depending on the amount of people that you have, and given that name, whether they're the choir or the praise team, but that's the music department. They're representing the music department overall. So with that, is it a difference? It just depends on the setting. It really depends on the setting, and depends on the people that you have within that setting. I can say that.
Can I add something? I think that the styles of music now also kind of force our hands in church, because a lot of praise and worship songs they can be complex sometimes, right? And so you're like, okay, I need people who can execute this as close to the record as possible. So then we start looking for who we may classify as the best singers, to be a part of this team, because you have to sing directly in the mic and you have to match the record. Whereas in a massive sound, it could be a lot going on that unless it's recorded, because you'll hear everything with that. But with the massive sound, it's a lot that you miss, because it doesn't necessarily. I hate to say this, but okay, I won't say it. So let's do that. But
oh, come on.
No, because I don't want to say that it requires. Oh, you said come on. It requires it requires a level of technical ability to do praise and worship the way that we do it. I'll put it that way.
There's a scripture.
That's a good way. That's good, Ty. Good job.
There's a scripture, and I don't know where it is, and I'll probably find it and put it in the comments later. But David called for the skilled musicians and the singers. Even thinking about the Levitical order of worship, the Levites were chosen and set apart to minister in the temple 24 hours a day. And sometimes how does that translate to 2020? Our mindsets have to be there 24/7. We got to always live it out. We got to praise, worship, live. We got to live it out. And it can't just be when it's our week to sing or when it's our Thursday to come to rehearsal, all those things. Because sometimes dealing with a larger group, and I ain't saying no names, but the larger group, sometimes people struggle with, like you said, they're only volunteering. They struggle with, we got to sing again. We got to rehearse again. I thought we were singing one song. I got to go. I can't stay to the end. But though sometimes the smaller group is the more dedicated. They'll say, you know what? I don't mind staying a little longer. I don't mind being at rehearsal a little longer. I don't mind learning that part, because I've gone through seasons of, let me stretch the worship team and give them the tedious songs. And then it was like, this is too hard. You need to put this on the choir. Then I stretched the choir. And then I got to give the choir the summer off because the dedication level has decreased. So many factors in place. Someone put, thank you, Jalen. 1 Chronicles 25. Jalen Bell put it in there. Someone put, Tiana, I think the praise team is such a sacred group. I agree with that. And at the end, she's talking about everyone is not called to that. Would you guys agree with that? It's a calling to not only be the worship leader, but also to be on the team. I believe it's a calling. And it could take some time. But there's also, in our culture, sometimes you're just voluntold to do it.
Yep.
Right.
But in that moment, like I know for me, I know I've been called, but there's times even knowing that I prayed and asked God to show me, give me the tools. I don't know how to deal with your people. Show me. Wesley Thomas, all the way from Cape Town, my brother Wesley. He says, sadly, y'all international. Y'all got people all the way overseas.
That's you. You international.
Right.
Sadly, in Cape Town, he says Cape Town is busy dying out for the last 7 to 8 years. Groups and smaller teams are not prevalent. And that's I'm going to tie that into, I think Arthur put something about knowing your church. Depends on the environment within the church. Knowing the church. My pastor said, I want praise team and I want a choir. But there was years that we didn't have a choir. But I would tell, hold on to the vision. And I was praying like, God, you got to send these people because he sees a choir. But I'm looking at the numbers, Lord, the pickings are slim. But God bless. And now we have a choir. We also have a worship team. And so, and now I'm to the point where I'm trying to build teams out of the worship team. And I think that as leaders, we also got to get to the point of discipling others to lead.
Absolutely.
I watched both of you all do. We got to get to the point of discipling others to be able to lead and carry on this mantle as well of responsibility. Yeah. Anything else about that? Because I got one more thing I'm going to ask you. What time is it, man? This is good conversation. I think you guys pretty much answered like what is both needed. You guys pretty much said that they're both needed. What would you say to individuals that say they're not needed? You pretty much answered that out as well. I was going to say, what would you say to people who say praise teams aren't needed, or I don't see the purpose of it, or I don't see the purpose of choirs? Because you have some people in just recent conversations I had who feel like choirs are done. They're done. Why we still got choirs? Or why do choirs have to wear robes? All those things. That's so old school. It's like everyone has their opinions. Jerome, go ahead.
I think that we have to get out of the mode of dismissing everything that has been foundational to us. I believe that praise teams in general are a byproduct of a clash of generational thoughts toward music. You can't completely dismiss one and completely say that it doesn't need to exist, not knowing the power and the effect that it's had on someone else, or what it's led to for someone else. Again, it's your preference, right? You don't like choirs now, for whatever reason. For me, I like to dig deeper into that. Like, why don't you like choirs? Like, because sometimes we're so obsessed with disconnecting from everything traditional that it pushes us to a place that we don't like anything associated with tradition, or what we think is tradition. And so to me, that's an inappropriate motivation to say I don't like choirs. In terms of the praise team, no, don't get rid of what works. Why not lean into it, and extract from it everything that we can. Often I've had to tell myself in this season of my life to lean into every moment and into every experience and really see what God is trying to offer me in that moment, and take it let it develop me as a person and prepare me for the next level. Like there's something that God is trying to offer you through praise and worship, and there's something that he's trying to offer you through choir music. Whether you prefer one or the over the other, still take the opportunity to lean into that and see where you see God in this and what he's trying to impart into you.
That's good, because there will be no church if there was no foundation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we stand on the shoulders of those traditionalists. We're standing on the shoulder of Dr. Mattie Moss. We're standing on the shoulder of Precious Lord, Take My Hand, Lord
Mahalia,
and all of them. I'm thinking of Thomas Dorsey.
Dorsey. Yeah.
We're standing on the shoulders of those traditionalists. I wrote this down earlier, and I was trying to figure out where to put it. I put traditionalists say, let's go back to what's comfortable, what's familiar. Whereas modernists say, let's go to what's forward and let's go to what's fresh and what's new. And so I believe that there's room for both. Like you said,
right.
There's room for the traditionalists to feel at home, and there's room for the modernists to still feel like we can move forward and go and to what's fresh and what's new, all in the same setting. Dannette, did you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I'll just say, like, as far as with the praise team, depending on what songs you're singing, that allows you to go to a higher level in worship, going into the heavenlies, going into the holies of holies. You're able to just dwell and just pour out your worship. But it depends on the setting. As it goes back to the setting, because some churches, they don't. I know for me, I went and ministered at a church here in Flint, and I'm a crier, I'm a weeper. I will go in speaking in 5,000 tongues. And I can church too, but my heart is for ministry. Like, that's me all day. And you have to understand the different environments in different churches. Like their church was more of foot stomping, hand clapping, but you asked me to come sing. So what am I supposed to do? It wasn't a moment for me to do Have You Tried Jesus? I did what song was that? They asked me to lead Amazing by Ricky Dillon. And then from that, it went to a whole different level in worship and praise. And so then you have the conversation of, is there a difference between worship and praise? No, but yes. So
that's another conversation.
Right. That's a whole different thing. So, there's deeper levels in worship, but we all praise. And so I was being used by God at that moment. So it created an atmosphere that the congregation wasn't used to, but they wanted it.
Yep.
Because they weren't used to that style. It's like, okay, so do we lift our hands? Like, and so and I'll say this kind of goes back to what I wanted to say earlier, is that when you're out leading worship, whether it's choir or praise team, you have to first hear God. You're hearing God, you're watching the musicians, you're remembering the song, you remember the sequence of the song, you're watching the pastor, you're watching the pastor's wife, you're watching the congregation to see if they're engaged. You're watching the choir members because they may have forgotten the words. So you got to feed them the words. And all of this stuff is happening at one time. And you still have to lead them into worship. So It's like, okay, like a lot of people say, well, how do you do it? Well, it's a lot that comes with it. It's a lot, like all of those things that I just said plays a part each time you get up to minister.
Yeah.
Whether you're just directing the song or you're leading out in worship, all of those things are playing. Like, okay, do I do this part one more time, or do we end the song right now? Based on, I'm sorry.
And creative and spontaneous in the moment.
Yep.
Right. So you're hearing God, like, and God's like, nope, do it one more time. And I'm like, God, they tired of singing. They probably looking at me like, Dannette, sit me down. And it's like, no, do it one more time. And then boom, breakthrough happened. So, or it's like, okay, or it could be like, all right, God bless you all, have a seat, you know. So it goes back to that whole setting of and knowing, you know, what direction you're going in at that moment, with all of those other things going on at the same time of you watching, listening, hearing. You got to tell the musicians when to go out, because if they miss it or if they come in too soon, I know now with most choirs, like in praise teams, they have stems that they sing to. So you got to know the sequence of everything, because you out leading and then it's like, nope, I only can do that part 5 times and I got to go out. So, so like having that constantly going over and over in your head, it causes more pressure, but it's yet a sense of freedom at the same time.
And such an honor that we get to be in this capacity. And
Right.
every now and then I say, God, I thank you, because you could have chosen anyone else. I didn't ask for this, but
I hear you.
Endowed me with this anointing and this gift to bless your people, and I'm grateful for that. So I'm going to handle it with care, and I'm going to, because it's a precious assignment. And I also think about, I was going to say to those who serve under leaders, pray for us, because it is a lot of multitasking. We were talking earlier, Dennett, about, you know, this pandemic. You know, it's relief for some of us, because just mentally preparing yourself for a Sunday worship throughout the week is tedious. It's tedious. And sometimes I get most of my anxiety preparing for a rehearsal, because you don't know who's gonna come.
Right.
You know, and you're thinking ahead on Sunday, you like, I got, you know, Lord, I feel like this is where you want us to go. When then you get to rehearsal and you're like, oh, okay, whether they come or not, even if they are there, but they don't get the song, then you gotta rewind and do something different. And then Sunday comes and you're anxious of who didn't show up. You don't know who's gonna call sick. The musicians don't remember the beat. You know, all this stuff is happening. So you got to think on your feet, and your pastor's looking like, come on with it. Come give us another song. When my pastor do this, I'm all, my heart, boom, 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 boom. Like, no. No. I try not to make eye contact. I'm just like, he's like,
oh, you was trying to get my attention. Oh, I'm sorry.
I ain't even see you.
Right.
Oops.
Pray. Constantly pray for your leaders, because we have a lot of responsibility. I have to address Jerome's question. He said, should the praise team members be required to sing with the choir?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And here's why. If you filter through your entire music department and you come up with who you think are the best singers for the praise and worship experience that you envision, right? It doesn't make sense to leave your best singers out of your choir.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. You know, these are your core vocalists. These are your core singers. Like they will be the teachers within the choir. They will help you on the notes that you may not hear, that are all the way in the back, you know, like, oh, actually it's this.
Yep.
And so for me, it's nonsensical to have your best singers sitting in the audience watching your choir. I feel like they need to be a part of the choir.
Yeah. What about you, Minister of Music?
I agree. You know, also it just gives a sense of unity as the music department. We're together as a whole, you know, and building that sense of unity. And then those that you have your stronger voices, use them as your section leaders that can help. You know, like you may have missed somebody that missed that note, but most times I hear it. I'm like, hey, who was it? Come on, speak now. We're going one by one. I learned growing up in the choir, I learned that in order to get it right, sometimes you have to go one by one. It may put you on the spot, but that's what rehearsal is for. You know, so then on Sunday morning, somebody just go, oh, like, wait a minute, you didn't do that in rehearsal on Wednesday. What are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, we didn't rehearse that. You know, you're creating your own notes. But yeah, bringing that sense of unity and togetherness.
I think also it eliminates the space for people to take on that elitist mentality, like, oh yeah, I'm on the praise team. So I don't do the choir,
Can't hold the tune in the front.
I don't do choir. Well, you don't do praise team either.
Right.
Not on my watch.
Right.
And again, it to me, it helps to eliminate that us and them type thing. I mean, because you really have to, as a leader, you have to work against that and constantly push, saying like, no, this is not that, y'all are not at war. Y'all are working together in concert.
Jalen Bell gonna say, man,
he is cutting up. He's cutting up.
when I'm wearing my scarf and carrying my tea, I ain't got time for nobody's sunshine, man.
See, that's the problem now. We got too many people thinking, and then what? You open your mouth and you ain't, what are you doing?
Or I need
Take
you
that
to
scarf off.
right, or I need you to lead a song, and they're like, me? You the only one I'm talking to. Yeah, of course.
Right. Oh, you want me?
You want me? Or
I said your name, so yeah.
A few years back, I had someone who begged and pleaded and wanted me to lead a song, and they're no longer at our church anymore. They moved away to another church. But and it wasn't because of music, so I don't know why it was, but
it was because of you.
It was you, Nate. You did it.
But they wanted to lead a song, and they begged and pleaded, and I let them lead a song, and it just flopped. And then they wanted to know how come I didn't give them. They said, you never told me how I did. Like, how come you never tell me how we did? And I'm like, it wasn't a performance. I'm not totally I mean, I could evaluate you, but at that point, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. But I was just like, you could probably work on some more stuff. But team members, you can't force a person to affirm you either. Don't force it out of them. My style of leadership is I don't have a problem giving my members constructive criticism, but sometimes I take some time to think through it because I'm also thinking I don't want to hurt no one's feelings. I don't want them to think that my motives is all jacked up by saying what I want to say or what I need to say. Mm-hmm. So it takes me a little while, and I love my team. I know they love me as well, and I see the hearts going up.
But so, that's to me that's the part that requires our focus the most. Yeah. The singing part is easy. We can make that work, right? But to me, it's the relationship building that's the most important part, because I need to understand that Nate, I can't offer you constructive criticism the way that I will offer Nettie constructive criticism, simply because you guys are two different people and you have two different ways of receiving information. So with that, it's important for leaders to be open to building individual relationships with these people, so you understand how to motivate people in the way that they produce what you envision them producing. And for me, my goal in any music atmosphere that I've been in has always been to do what I can in my power to push people to their potential. Yeah. And everybody's potential is going to be at a different level. But as long as you're getting there, then I'm good. If I'm not stretching you, if I'm not challenging you, then I'm not fit to be your leader anymore. You need to go somewhere else where you can grow, honestly. And so like going back to the point, like building those relationships with one another is the most important part, because that's the part that builds the trust. That's the part that has people that will allow people to be loyal to you. Yeah. And honestly, you get more out of people when they like you.
True. And then you have to be the main thing, piggybacking off of that, you have to be willing and open, because as a leader, you're willing to listen, because I know that I am flawed. I don't know everything. I've learned a lot from the people that I've been under leadership with, but I know that I could be better. But so instead of not talking or openly communicating, people shut down. So then you have that brick wall of the communication, and it's like, I'm here, guys, I care. And then like, no, we don't want to talk. So it's like, why don't you want to talk? Like, not saying it like that, but for real, why don't you want to talk? Because you have to be willing and open. And I've heard things that I didn't want to hear before, but that's causing me to want to be a better leader. Or maybe I dropped the ball on the communication, So it's like you learn, and it goes back to that personality thing. You learn in everybody's personality, because you have one leader that did things totally different. And because of where I may have came from, or the leader may have came from, they did things totally different. It was kind of like, we learned the song, we're going to do the song, and it's pretty much like the record.
Yeah.
You have some choirs out here that's just teaching something totally different. You're like, where did that song come from? Like, I know one song, God is an awesome God, and by You for Praise It. And I heard one choir sing it, and the second part where the tenors come in, God is great and greatly, and they said something totally different. So I'm standing up, I'm supporting, and I'm like, yeah, he's great. And you get to the end, worthy to be praised, like, whoa, we back to the song. So the whole learning, and
you can't mess that song up.
I don't even know where I just went with that, but anyway, I was
that's hilarious.
But that goes to the communication thing. Like, if I sent you the song, like, why are we making up words? Like, come on now. Or like, that's not what it said. And I've learned that you cannot always trust Google and their lyrics. So I have learned that in giving people songs and lyrics too. But it just goes back to the whole communication of how people learn and how they communicate, and be open to communicate. That's the main thing. Be open.
Listen, this has been such a great conversation. Like, I almost want to have a part 2. But I want to do 2 more things. It's very short. I want you to talk about one of maybe your most embarrassing moment on the stage, whether it was leading choir. I know what you're going to say. Didn't
Oh my gosh, I've had several.
Most embarrassing moment on stage, leading choir or worship team, and then I want you to think about probably your favorite, like all-time favorite choir song or favorite worship team song, whatever. So first, let's talk about embarrassing moments.
Ooh.
All my embarrassing moments got to do with falling. I'm very clumsy, so.
You fell in the midst of worship?
Yeah, I told that story a couple weeks ago. I was in Korea, and I was telling my testimony, and in Korea, most of the churches you don't wear shoes, so you just wear socks, and they got these slick floors. It was the point of the service where I had all of the youth. It was a youth conference. I had all the youth sit down, and we sat, and I sat on the stairs. And as I was rising up, it was a real serious, heated moment. Because God is He's gonna lead you. I had the Kiara Shear, like, oh, he's gonna cry. And I got up and just fell on back. And I was like, because sometimes in our lives we will fall, but God will pick us back up. And it was like,
oh my gosh.
And
that's funny.
The host was like, did you really fall? I said, yeah, I did. Thanks for having my back, though. He picked me right on up. The translator, he picked me right on up. But that's probably my most recent. I can't think of any other ones right now, but that was the most recent.
Oh man. Ty, you want to go first?
I can't really remember an embarrassing moment. I guess an embarrassing moment was for me. And if either you remember something embarrassing that I did, then you can bring it up, because my recall is not that well. But I got called on to sing a song, and I just knew I knew it, and I knew I was about to kill it. And then when it came time to sing it, I completely forgot all of the words. It was, and to this day I remember it was, I am persuaded, Lord, to. I forgot all the words. I am persuaded is all I knew. And I'm like, help. And the whole church looking at me like,
right.
And I'm it's no way you can play that off. Like, you got to know those words, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking, and somebody's mouthing me the words, and I'm horrible at reading lips. So I'm like,
oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Everybody was out of the spirit, obviously. They was giving you words like
right.
Wow. Well, I've had several. Trying to think of one. Well, most of them they all pretty much deal with my wig, either shifting or lifting, or completely coming off. So I've learned over the years to make sure that your hairdos are intact, first of all, and are secure. And we have to have a security with our relationship with God. But anyway, but please make sure your hair extensions and coverings are intact. This one is pretty intact. It's intact today. I made sure it was intact. But anyway, no, that was my experience. I think it was like 3 ministers and workers meetings ago, and I had went to the salon earlier that day to get my hair recurled, and I forgot to grab my extra security pins, and we were singing "I'll Say Yes to My Lord." I don't know, you remember this, Nate? And I felt it shifting, right? And I did this, but when you're in the choir, this means go back to the top. Go to the top. So Anthony Feemster was playing the organ, and we were in the vamp. Yes, Lord, my soul said yes. And then I did like this before my soul says yes. But I was grabbing my wig. So they started playing I Say Yes to My Lord in the beginning of the song, but it ended up working out okay. And the lead, she was able to jump in, and
somebody said there was a shifting in the atmosphere.
It was literally a shifting had taken place in the atmosphere, and the Mother Peppers, First Lady Duncan, Bishop, and we had a guest speaker that night, and my wig literally just lifted up, and I was like, oh my gosh. So anyway, that was my experience.
Favorite gospel song or choir songs that you conducted or you directed or taught?
Okay, so my favorite choir song that I've taught and conducted has to be "Destroy This Temple and in 3 days I'll raise it up." That has to be my favorite because it was just so many technical parts to it. I liked that Easter time was my time to like really like, okay, this is where we're gonna stretch in the kind of song that we do, and just kind of push our abilities. So that would probably be the my favorite choir song to teach and execute. Praise and worship wise, I can't say that I have one. Yeah, give me a second for that one. I can't say that.
With Matthew 28, you taught it all by ear, right?
Yes.
Cool. Dennett?
He's a beast.
I know.
We love you, Tyrone. We love you. Woo! My favorite choir song. Wow. Besides my own that I co-wrote with Kendrick Mayfield, He
Come
is the
on.
Lord. We were able to record that with the Michigan Centennial Choir back in 2014. But as far as my other favorite, it's Psalms 117. Praise the Lord. That's one of my favorite choir songs, and we actually I had a chance to do that with my brother's church a couple weeks ago.
Jerome,
I'm like, why did you pick such a high song? That gets a little high at the end. But I love modulations. That's it. As far as praise and worship songs, that's a hard one. I don't really have a favorite.
Yeah, that's what I'm leaning.
While you're thinking, my favorite choir song, I said, well, the song I taught that I had the most fun, it was Soulful Hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Quincy Jones, I think he.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I had to teach that a couple times, usually around the Christmas season. But my first time teaching it, I got to teach it with by using the sheet music, and I could have did it by ear, but it was cool. That was my first piece that I got to teach with sheet music, and it was cool to stretch in that level. And then I was able to discover some notes that I thought I heard that I didn't hear. But so that was fun. But also just I love the arrangement of that, and it's usually in a setting where there's it's usually in a multicultural setting where that song is being sang, at least here in Grand Rapids. So that was a fun moment. So that's also one of my favorite. I'm an Easter Christmas guy too. Like I love preparing music for Easter and Christmas Christmas services. So worship songs, I'll start there. Right now, I am listening to a lot of Maverick City music and Pastor William McDowell's latest project. So there's nothing like your presence. I can't wait to teach that to our church. But there's nothing like your presence, Lord. I listen to that and I put it on at least twice or three times a week in my house, and I listen to it like I'm a first-time listener. It's just such a beautiful arrangement, and it's so simple. It's just like 3 lines. It's amazing. So, but yeah. Okay, I bought you some time.
I guess I'll say for me, and maybe because it's a song that I lead, is "Flow to You," Full Gospel, Baptist. That's one of my favorite worship songs. "Flow to You." Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Dennett.
There's so many.
Jalen said his favorite that you taught was "Things Will Work Out."
Oh yeah.
Yep. Things Will Work Out. Is that Ricky Dillard?
That Ricky Dillard, yeah.
Wesley, Procession of the Levites. I loved Anthem of Praise.
Anthem of Praise, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great song.
My favorite. Okay, so I'll go with my current because it's impossible for me to nail one favorite for this. But I'm gonna also go with William McDowell. The name of the song is escaping me. But it's the song on his latest record with Yolanda Adams.
Yeah. I know what you're saying. You were just talking about. Oh God, what is that song?
Oh, how great!
My God, how great you are!
Yes, that.
Yeah, that's a nice song.
That takes me down.
Yeah. That's good.
Right now, Jonathan Nelson. I don't know if you guys heard his latest project. He has. Oh my gosh! Like I was listening to it Saturday, and I shared it. I shared it on Facebook, and I also shared it in our group, me and Southwest 3. But he redid Manifest, down to nothing, especially at the very end. Manifest, woo! And honey, major tongues will speak. The Spirit of the Lord rests on that song. And just because in this time that we're in right now, that we really need to start declaring and decreeing some things, and and let it be established in the earth that we are going to make it through what we're dealing with right now. And of course, we can't all come together and sing as a choir or sing as a praise team, but in some way we need to continue that connection with what we have a love for, and that's praise and worship and songs. And for a long time, I couldn't even sing. You know, I said earlier, I've been singing since I was 4. I couldn't even sing because I too, in my home, we experienced the COVID-19. And for I couldn't sing. I couldn't, my lung capacity was to 0. I started singing songs, like I was singing like a little bit, but as far as like singing out, like I hadn't done that in so long, and it was not really scary, but I knew I still had a song in my heart. But I started practicing when I was in the bathroom, you know, because you think you know, Kim Burrell in the bathroom when you sing and you come out, you sound like somebody else. Anyway, but I began to stretch my voice and be able to get back to where I was before. So I'm still coming around with that, but it was a struggle not being able to sing. Like, wait a minute, God, like, what are you doing? I still praise you though, but bring the song back. The song is still in my heart, but to hear myself starting to sing again and use that gift and, you know, bringing back the lung capacity, that was conflicted. It was conflicted.
Yeah. Well, I'm so grateful. We are way over our time, but this was such a great conversation. I think this is the longest we've ever gone. But I really, I want you all to show some love for Tyrone Foster and Dennett Cohn. Thank you all so much for being here and just for being great friends over the years. I was reminiscing today. I said it earlier. We recorded at it's such a long title. Help me out, with Kellen Brooks, 100th Centennial.
Yeah.
That live recording, we were all standing next to each other and singing, and we've served under Dennett, and Tyrone sang on my live project, and I was thinking about your project. I think I saw a video of you singing "I Hear It." I hear it. Recently, somebody, I think Titus or somebody, it came on memory.
Yeah, because the actual date recently passed. The May 7th was the release date 4 years ago. So.
Wow.
I watch you guys grow. You guys watch me go through changes, and I watch you all go through changes. And I'm grateful that you guys are still, in my traditional tone, holding up the bloodstained banner. But you guys are still walking it out. I love you both, and I just thank you so much for just being who you are, and so much. I look at you all as bridge builders, because I could have gotten some people who were in the traditional end and someone who was way far in this new age end, but we're like right in the middle, and we have experience on both. And I'm glad that I got you guys and you could share your experience. And I love that you do. I love what you do, and I love continuing to watch you all grow. So
we thank you. Thank you, Nate, international psalmist of the world.
The glory. I saw somebody on here from Haiti that I went to Haiti in 2010, I think. I don't know if they're still on, but he said you played the piano with me, and I was like, wow. So good to see you. I mean, everyone who's on, you never know who you're touching, you know?
Yeah.
You never know who you're touching. And so I'm grateful for all those who tuned in and those who are who are following us and all those good things. So listen, I do want to say, hey, everybody, keep praying for this nation. Our world is in turmoil today. You know, I was up and I was doing some work, and I was just kind of like feeling this feeling of grief, just like, wow, you know, even without going into details, we know what's happening, but we also know we have to continue to pray. This has been going on since my parents' and their parents were here, you know, but we got to keep praying and ask God to keep protecting us. So hang in there, be mindful of what you post, and be encouraging to one another. Text someone. We're still in the pandemic at the same time. So I forgot all about Corona today and yesterday, you know, because of everything that's happening. But we got to continue to pray and give God what He's due. All right. If that is all, thank you all for joining in. Our next conversation is going to deal with prayer and intercession. And how it relates to worship. So worship and intercession going hand in hand. We'll have our guests lined up soon, And again, we love you, appreciate you, and good night.
Good night.
Bye. Thank you.